Hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime here in southern British Columbia, where it is a rainy day. Definitely very dull. Looks a bit like fall, let's put it that way. So I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. And for some of you, you know, this is my birthday. So I am taking it very easy today, but I thought I would show you something that Jody sent me, which I thought was so thoughtful, and I'm sure that Pat, if she happens to pop in, I will show her. But I couldn't help thinking that this would be something that Pat would really appreciate as a gift to me, which is a spinner, so that I don't have to click pens and do all those things. However, I'm trying to learn. Hi, Jody. Thank you so much for this. I'm trying to learn. Apparently, if you do it the right way, it will spin indefinitely, but I haven't got that far yet. It's just like, the other thing is it says that you can hold it with one hand and also with the same hand make it spin, but I have not been able to do that. I have tried. I just don't have that dexterity. Hi, Sophie. How are you doing? So, what a thoughtful gift. I really appreciate it. And, you know, it is interesting because you also sent me some bubble gum, chewing gum. That tastes so good. You know, it's just like, wow. And I'm keeping it for special occasions. So the reality is, just so that people know how kind you are, Jody, Jody also sent me a face mask for my sleep apnea. And if you see this line here, it's not that I've done something terribly wrong with my makeup. It is actually the line that can you see the mark here as well? It's the mark that the face mask left. So I've got it a bit too tight, I think. But I definitely stepped well, and hi Jamie, good to see you as well. And so thank you so much. What a thoughtful gift. And so I'm learning with lots of new things. Now, some of you will know that I had dinner with Dougie this week. And for those who don't know, Dougie is my son from Kenya. He and I have known each other since he was 18. And we went and had dinner together because we both have birthdays within 5 days of each other. His is on the 25th, you know, which is the birthday of DearMamaSal, the channel, and mine is today on the 30th. And so every year we try and do something together, you know, somewhere between those 2 dates. And we had an absolutely incredible meal. We went to the Keg here in my area, and it just was, I had steak and lobster, and, you know, and I started with grilled brie. You know, it was just like, it was a really good meal. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So what I thought I'd do today is sort of talk to you guys a little bit about, I was going to do quotes on birthdays, and I thought, yeah, you know something, I don't think so. I'd like to do something that perhaps will have a different impact. And so what I thought I'd do is some quotes looking towards the future, because here I am at 72, and I certainly don't feel it. Here I am at 72, and I think it's really important to continue to look to the future and get excited about it. And so I also know that a lot of you are having a lot of issues at the moment. You know, there's a lot of illness going on with different viewers and their families and so forth. And so I thought it might be a benefit to everybody if we look a little bit to the future. What do you think? There is a Swedish proverb that says, for those who wish to sing, they will always find a song. You know, in other words, if you want to be happy, you will find ways of being happy. And I wondered if any of you online at the moment, made a point of being happy this week, right? And if so, what did you do? Because, the older I get, the more I realize happiness is self-made. It is not what other people bring to you. It's what you bring to your life or to other people. And so I think it's really important to remember that if we want to be happy, we need to let go of the past and the future and just be happy today. And so I really did want to just start with that one. And Joshua Kai said, even the smallest shift in perspective can bring about the greatest healing. And Jody, you are definitely an example of that. You made some small shifts in your thinking and changed your health. Now, for those of you who know that I suffer from edema, which is, swelling of my lower legs, my feet particularly, it was listening to Jody that made me realize maybe I've got an answer to my swelling that I hadn't thought of before. And it was, Jody was busy telling me some time ago, maybe a year ago, about the treatment she does for lymphedema. And I thought, something, what she's doing is massaging her muscles to create blood flow. And then I thought, wait a minute, let me think about that. Because if massaging the muscles makes the blood flow, and if edema is blood not flowing properly, then I've got a massager. So what I do now is every night when I go to bed, and by the way, if you know anybody that's got the same problem, you might want to get them to try this. Every night when I go to bed, I put the massager at the bottom of my bottom of my calves, sort of just above my ankle area. And I leave it to massage those muscles for about an hour. And then I move it up to my mid-calf. And then I move it up to my thighs. All right. So it's like I do about an hour in each one while I'm busy doing whatever, binge watching or doing whatever. And I know it sounds weird, but it has worked. So Jody, yet again, big thanks to you. And there is just listening to Jody talk about her illness gave me the answer to something that's going on with me. And hopefully we will be able to help other people as well. The other thing that was really weird, and I do want to say that because I want to be thankful looking forward to the future. The thing that I was talking about is that I used to suffer from psoriasis, which is sort of like an eczema of the joints, and it showed up on the outside of my, on my skin, on my dermis, and I was forever scratching like this, and for some reason, touch wood, that I don't think I've suffered from it since I started changing my diet. But we don't know why. I was talking to the doctor about it, and we don't know why it would do that. So, but who cares why? What we know is it does that. Amit Ray said that God is peace, bliss, beauty, and truth. Focus your energy on that. Life will be like that. So think about that. If God is peace, concentrate on peace. Don't create drama. If people around you are creating drama, be at peace. All right. It definitely takes effort, but just let the drama be around you, not in you. Don't suck it in and be part of it. All right. Do whatever you can to stay outside the drama. And if God is bliss, think about that. What is bliss to you? Anybody got a definition of what bliss is? And the reason I say that is because bliss is a word that we use, but I wonder what your definition of it is. And to me, bliss is really a state of serenity. It's where I'm just happy. It's like the world's carrying on and I'm okay. And if God is beauty, then what is beauty to you? I'm looking out at trees of all sorts of different colors, and I'm going, that's beauty to me. Not just the trees, but the fact that winter is coming, apparently, and they're beginning to change color. It's that time of the year where the trees are beginning to change color and then the leaves will fall. So it's beginning to look very pretty in terms of that. I don't like what follows it, but I need to be grateful that I will be around to see it if that be the case. And so you look at it and go, and if God is truth, are you truthful? And in future, will you be truthful? Or will you continue to lie to people? I think one of the most astounding things in getting older was I discovered how much I lied to be polite. And it really concerned me. You'd meet somebody and go, nice to meet you. And then, and now I say to people, I think it's nice to meet you. Try not to prove that wrong, and you know what I mean? Because I don't know if it is nice to meet them yet. But, it's those little things, but I do laugh about it. And luckily most people laugh with me. And, to me, it's about, we say all these things to be socially polite, but really, I wonder about some of them. And somebody said that expectation has brought me disappointment. Disappointment has brought me wisdom. Acceptance, gratitude, and appreciation have brought me joy and fulfillment. So how many of you can relate to that? How many of you have had expectations and been disappointed? That I cannot tell you how many expectations I've had in my life, and then got bitterly disappointed. And now I've learned that it just is what it is. And, I don't have to expect anything but what it is. And, that takes a lot of learning where, that part of you dream, the daydream, right? And you so hope that everything's going to change without you changing. Yeah. So yes, expectation has brought me disappointment, and I have learned to temper down my expectations. And disappointment has brought me wisdom. I don't expect the same from people to a large degree. And I'm sort of thinking about that because there's some people I still do, I must admit. But think about that, right? Disappointment has brought me wisdom. Right? You learn to live in the real world through disappointment. But acceptance, gratitude, and appreciation, right? That's what brings you joy and fulfillment. Yeah. So Sophie is saying not worrying about the past or the future, all right? And I totally agree with you. It is so important. Jody also just wrote here, I think Sophie said it well. One aspect of bliss is being able to live in the moment and not have the burden of hurt from the past or anxiety of the future or the unknown. Being present and in the moment. Yes, and Sophie's saying it's hard to learn not to expect things. Yes, I used to expect so much from people and situations. And, now it's just like, it's going to be what it's going to be. So, and this is an interesting one. Listen to this one, guys. The circumstances surrounding your birth is not as important as the opportunity to live life. All right, so whether you are rich, poor, fat, thin, healthy, not so healthy, whatever, really none of that actually matters. You have the opportunity to live life. All right? You have the opportunity to live and be happy today, if you want to. Can you imagine it? I could say to myself, "Oh my goodness, I'm 72. I'm past it now. I can't. I don't feel like that. All right, to me, it's just like, wow, I woke up, good start, and I thought about all the blessings that I have, right, and the friends that I have, and the fun things that that I have. Jody, this works. It's amazing. I'm just sitting here going, "You're so clever." And Amy Lee McCree said, "Joy is the fountain of youth." How about that one? Would you agree with that? That if you want to be youthful, have joy. If you want to be young in your thinking, in your spirit, enjoy life, enjoy the rain. Make a point about it. Now, Sophie's saying the funny thing is that this is the topic because we were having a discussion today at my work relating to this about choosing certain things that would make you happy over other things like money. Yes, if you can't, I'm sitting here, Sophie, I could be really stressing out about the sale of my house and, so forth. But, I choose not to dwell on it. It's either going to go through or it's not. And if it doesn't, I assure you, it would bring a whole host of problems I don't need in my life. But until it goes through or doesn't, I don't have to worry about it. Does that make sense? So I choose not to worry about that. Do I have enough money to make it through to, the next month? Believe I do. Yeah. And that is important. And I assure you that once you retire, that becomes a whole different story. You don't realize how much you get used to getting a paycheck at the end of the month. And so you can, think differently. And when you retire, that is different. You have a very limited ability. And so, but the thing is, it's possible to do. And I still make sure that I get myself things that please me. You know what I mean? Things that bring me joy. Be it one color of paint, a little bottle of paint might bring me great joy. How about this one? Being sensitive is a gift that fosters peace. Help create a kinder, gentler world by embracing it. I was told so many times that I was too sensitive to certain things. Right? Right. Okay. So Sophie, do you want me to repeat that, or is that just between us? Let me know. And if you would like to talk about whatever that is, just do so. Tell me what it's about, and we can talk about it a bit. And so, being sensitive is something that I value. I'm glad I'm sensitive. I'm stronger now than I used to be. I don't get pushed as much as I used to, but I really still am probably more sensitive than most people know. And yet I'm happy for that. I'm happy that I can be there, but I'm also happy now that I can control it. And that's a gift of my years, my maturity, is that I can, for the most part, also control it. Michael Levy said that we all shuffle our own deck of life. The deck is our brain, the cards, our thoughts. The results we get will determine if we're giving ourselves a fair deal. Do you have an authentic dealer? All right. So do you have an authentic dealer? Are you kind to yourself? I am amazed, Jody. I'm going to do the 2x4 here. But I'm amazed how many times Jody will be so thoughtful and kind and considerate of anybody else, in terms of viewers, in terms of myself, of Lauren, of anybody else that she helps. But goodness gracious, does she have a double standard when it comes to herself? And, part of my role in her life, I believe, is to remind her of that, because she is so considerate and forgiving of everybody, and yet still so hard on herself. You're organizing a big trip, Sophie. That sounds wonderful. Is it a holiday trip or is it a business trip? And somebody said it's all about reprogramming our minds to focus more on what brings us joy. So, what brings you joy? Do you know? All right. And I have to laugh because some of you know I all my life I wanted to be able to bake sourdough bread. I can now. The joke is now that I'm not allowed to eat it, I can cook it. But I just said to myself, I'm not going there. I'm not going to deprive myself of sourdough bread. I'm still going to have a piece every day and enjoy it. And, I throw away a lot of bread every week. I don't care. It's about, I make my sourdough so that I can have my slice every day. It's my slice of life. And there's part of me to go, that's really wasteful, Sal. And I go, I don't care. The peace I have brings me such joy. I'm going to continue to do that. And yes, the good point. That is a very good point. Jody is saying it is creative time as well. Right? It's creative time. I love seeing the starter rise up. And I love watching the actual dough rise up. What you do with sourdough is you sort of have some of it on the countertop every day, and then I put half of it into another container every day and put a bit of extra flour with it and make the dough, and then leave that in the fridge. And that starts to work on itself as well. But it's like every day there's that process. And something, Jody, you're right. It's not only creative. It is also routine that is good for you. All right. I find that and Sophie, the slice of life, that is a good one, right? I also find out that while I'm mixing it up, because I found out how to make bread without actually kneading it. But, as I'm mixing it up, it has a wonderful feel to it. I just feel so relaxed. Yes, Jan. Hi, Jan. Good to see you. Jan's saying, we were all raised to put others first. To be kind to ourselves is considered selfish. I do think that's where the conflict is. I agree with you, Jan. You almost feel like a bad person if you look after yourself. And I know that's, Jody finds it very difficult to give herself permission to look after herself. I find it very difficult. And so I do believe you're right, Jan, that we grew up always thinking of other people. Don't be selfish. Think of other people, not yourself. But in terms of finding joy and happiness, I've got to tell you something. What I found is, if you can find out what you want, I ask myself in some days, what do I want to do today? Well, I need to do. No. What do you need to do? What do you want to do? All right, so let me ask you guys. In the next 24 hours, what do you want to do? Not what do you have to do. What do you want to do? Let's see what answers we get. All right. Because it's a difficult question for a lot of us. And by the way, have you noticed that how quickly the negativity comes in? Things like, well, if I had enough money, No, it's not about that. It's about within your ability. Sophie's going, I want to watch TV and sleep, and I shall do that. All right, Jan's saying that she wants to relax. What would that look like to you, Jan? Part of the interesting thing in my routine now is I really have started to work on certain times of the day are for other people and certain times of the day are for me. Do any of you have that? This is like, okay, the first hour I get up drinking my coffee, I check emails and do things like that. And that's about other people. But at 11 o'clock at night, or sometimes even 9 o'clock at night, I go, that's enough. That's enough. Now it's about me. And I agree, either I want to watch television or I want to binge watch something or do whatever. And, it's enough of everybody else now. This is for me. Yes, Jan says relaxing to her is to get off the merry-go-round of life, all right? The hamster wheel needs to stop. The question is, can you do it? Can you stop the hamster wheel? All right, so Jody says that for her, it's simple things. Watch a movie, make pizza for Lionel, indulge in a book. So, and the question is, will you do it, right? Jan, will you get off the merry-go-round today? Will you just stop and go, the next hour is just for me? And, sit down and read a book and by the way, do it at a time that most people don't expect you to, right? I was amazed how many people contacted me to try and wish me happy birthday today. And, they phoned me early and I let them go to voicemail. And some didn't even leave a message, but I know they phoned and I know why they phoned. And so to me, this is like, I was asleep, you know what I mean? And the ringing of the phone woke me up, but I didn't have to answer it. I didn't want to get up yet. I wanted to continue to rest. All right, so Jan says, I can't, unfortunately. I have so many people depending on you. All right, so not at all in 24 hours. You know, one of the things, and I've got to say this, Jan, one of the great gifts, as far as I'm concerned, is a smartphone and the washroom. You know, because if you really want to take time for yourself, that is one place you know you're going to be on your own. And you can just sit for a while and, you know, maybe read a couple of pages of a book. You know, I really have to tell you, be creative. You know, it's like, or learn something. Now, you can't sit there for too long because otherwise, believe you me, I've done it. Your circulation gets cut off and you can't stand up again. But, you know, really think, you know, you can do it. There have been times where you can literally just go and literally put the seat down and sit on the seat and have some time to yourself. Because most people don't disturb you too much there. So to me, it is very important. By the way, Jan, have you gone out for a walk? Because most people don't want to join you. All right, so Sophie's found that one as well, right? When I get home from work, she says, I go straight to the bathroom and play about on my phone. Yes, you see, and you know, this is the whole thing. Have a book, have a book downloaded that you want to do. You've been known to take 45-minute showers. That is looking after yourself. Right? Well done. Keep looking after yourself. But you know, I do believe that going out for a walk is looking after yourself. Hi, Britt. We're talking about things that we're doing for the future. Kilroy Ulster said, attaining joy entails more than simply achieving success. It's a single aim in a person's life work. Happiness, in its truest sense, is the unselfish ability to love other people. Perchance that is why it's better to lose at love than never to have love at all. Until we lose at love, we are not willing to risk all. We are reluctant to let go of our last vestiges of selfishness to become the unselfish lovers that we must ultimately aspire to be in order to reach the requisite degree of emotional equanimity essential to attain bliss. Wow, there are a lot of words there. Basically, to find love and lose at it means that you were prepared to give it all to find it. And I think that's really an important thing. Nyasha, thank you for the birthday wishes, honey. I was just saying that, you know, 72 is an amazing figure for me. And, you know, I really am quite amazed. I think, you know, that the getting hurt at love says that you know, I've always said, you only hurt this much because you gave that much, all right? Or you expected that much can cause a lot of hurt. And so you got to see that in a way, when you give it all, yes, it hurts, all right? But if you truly love that person and they don't love you anymore, then you would want them to go and be happy elsewhere. That is my reality anyway. It took me a long time. Susan Stranley said, she wrote a book called Alzheimer's Tripping with George. She said, today we traveled back south to Portland, Oregon. It occurred to me that we were now going towards our home in Florida instead of away from it. Maybe this concept is why I was feeling unenthusiastic and worn out. How many of you have noticed that you feel completely different going somewhere as opposed to coming back? You know, if ever you've had to fly on vacation, you know, you'll find that the excitement you feel on the way there is very different from the way back. All right. And it was said that, but though these ups and downs of our life are inevitable, we have an opportunity to bring our focus on a daily basis to the transformative power of joy. All right. We have the ability to be joyful. Okay. And that ability should not be dependent on another person. Right? The ability to have joy is your control. If the only time you are joyful is when you're talking to somebody else that you care about, or the only time you're joyful is when whatever, if you cannot feel joy being with yourself, then that is something that you might want to work on. All right? Because if your joyfulness is always dependent externally, somebody else has to bring you that joy, then think about that, right? And yes, Jan is saying exactly, we're responsible for our own joy and our own misery, Jan. If you think about it intellectually, how much of your pain in life was due to your expectation of something that didn't happen? All right? How much of the pain in your life was due to the fact that you expected somebody to do this certain thing and they never did? How much pain in your life was due to you having a fantasy about, you know, living in Disneyland at some level, and then found out reality didn't look like that at all? And so what I want you to do is to really realize that living in reality, you know, out of the emotion, just into the reality, the facts of what they are, can be joyful, even if bad stuff is happening. And how many of you believe that being joyful actually is a healing thing? All right? All right. So I don't know how many of you've noticed that, but just taking a few minutes to laugh, all right? If you're not feeling too good about stuff today, you know, we are so fortunate, really. We can go to YouTube at any time and go find comedy, all right? And I don't mean gross comedy, but, you know, pretty clean comedy. You know, we can find comedy, things that will make us laugh. What do we know? If you laugh, you're giving off really good endorphins. And if you're giving off really good endorphins, it's going to take away a lot of the negativity. The other thing that somebody taught me once is, if you're really having a problem finding joy, then how about giving joy? All right? Sometimes the way to get something is to give it away. Right? Jody, I'm pretty sure that when you got this, it gave you great joy because you knew I was going to love it. Am I correct in that? So even though I didn't get it yet, the fact that you got it for me must have brought you great joy. And you know I'm going to be playing with it every broadcast. Yes. You know, the Brit is saying that Paul from Boston said once that it makes him happy making and seeing others happy. Yes. However, the one thing that I would say is that there are an awful lot of unhappy people whose only happiness is performing and making other people happy. All right. And so part of the thing I'm talking about here, Britt, is can you find that joy for yourself without making other people happy? All right. That is true joy. And Jan is saying, and quite rightly so, and I'm certain a lot of people here and can relate to this. She's saying high expectations with sad results can be devastating. Yeah. Yeah. Jody is saying about the spinner thing. She's saying, I thought it would make you smile, and that indeed made my heart happy. Yeah, you see, and I didn't even have to receive it. Just the fact that you got it for me made you happy. And so that is what I'm saying. That sort of thing, I think is a nice thing. What can I, get for somebody else that I know will make somebody else happy? And something as, I want to say as small as this, Jody, but you understand. It's just amazing. Yeah, and the British saying now when people let me down, I'm like, oh, well, I expected nothing less, whatever. And he's also saying, because I've been let down so many times, but Brit, one of the positive things about being let down so many times is we do acquire the ability to not let it affect us as much. All right. If you like, it sort of toughens up our skin so that, we go, okay, I didn't expect as much, therefore I do not hurt as much. Did you find that as well, Britt? That when you don't expect as much from people, it doesn't hurt as much? So joy is a deceptive trap. Grief is the real preceptor. Teaching caution, circumspection, discrimination, detachment, awareness, and vigilance. Wow. Yeah, right. Nature provided human beings with all the gemstones needed to attain happiness. Physical abilities, intellect, and cognitive capacity, and emotional indices. Yet surrendering to demanding indices of the overinflated ego leads us to living a miserable life. Okay, so let me think about that. Anybody got an example of where your overinflated ego caused you to not be joyful? All right, so Niesh is saying, relating to not expecting anything from others, how are we to condition our minds to expect this? Because I've had a similar experience, although I am getting there, I'm still not there. No, you know something, Niesh, time. Give yourself time. The greatest gift you can give yourself is time, is to say to yourself, I understand that this is possible. I'm just not there yet. It's okay. I want to tell you, it's called hope. All right. I'm thinking about Jody when she was so completely devastated with the amount of liquid her body was retaining. Over 100 pounds of it already. More than, and she probably has another 100 pounds to go. This is like, she didn't think about anything but the joy of losing some of that. And I wonder whether she actually believed at the time that she could lose 100 pounds of it. I have a feeling that it's been a journey of small hopes. Like, I hope I can lose some by trying this. And then she found that by trying it, she did lose some. And that encouraged her. Well, maybe if I do this as well, I might be able to lose a bit more. We'll wait for Jody to give us the input on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went for her. Yeah, you know something, the Brits saying something that I really relate to from my youth, all right? The Brits saying the thing to do is with your friendships and relationships is not to do like I do and ignore all the red flags when they're hitting you in the face, left, right, and center, like a ton of bricks. I want to tell you something that is extremely wise advice. Somebody once said that, you know, it is really important. You know, I can remember going back over my relationships, Britt, and wondering how did I miss this? Yeah, exactly. Denial isn't the river in Egypt, right? But I really did ignore all the red flags as well. And I really thought I could change people. Okay, Sophie, good to see you. I'm glad you enjoyed the topic, and all the best with your big trip plans. And Jody's saying, it seemed nearly impossible, but I know without trying, it sure wouldn't happen. So I held on to the hope and invested in myself one day at a time. All right. So think about that. All right. Which is, don't ignore the red flags. You know, but I think the question is, and I certainly did it as well, Brett. How about the rest of you? Did any of you ever ignore the red flags in a relationship or a friendship? Because you were so desperate to have a relationship or a friendship? Yeah, and the Brit saying the red flags are there for a reason. Absolutely. And you know, it's funny because when I looked back on my various relationships, I went, I can't believe I ignored that when it happened. But I can see why I did. You know, I didn't want to deal with that. I wanted to deal with the happy stuff. I didn't want to deal with it. And so, you know, look at it and go, did it teach you a lesson? Yeah. And, you know, I think, you know, that is true. You know, we don't want to see the red flags because that would stop us from enjoying the present, right? It's like, if I look at the red flag, I won't be as happy as I am over here, you know, when the truth is you're going to have to deal with that red flag eventually. So might as well deal with it early rather than late. So I would ask you, for those of you who understand that you were given red flags that you ignored, what are the lessons that you've learned? What behavior have you changed? Yeah, the Brit saying that the reality of the red flag kills the fantasy. Wow, that is so true, Brit. Right? If you deal with the red flag, you're going to have to let go of the fantasy. And that is the answer. That is the answer. What you are fantasizing about isn't the reality. The reality is being able to look at the red flag. Deb Weekly said, we all have to rely on God's infinite grace and keep trying. Keep loving, keep believing, and do the best we can. You know, I want to go back to this thing about Jody and her treatment for her lymphoderma, you know, that massage thing that she has for her lymphoderma. And Jody, I don't mind telling you that when you first told me about it, I thought, wow, that sounds like a massage machine, that is doing that. Now, did I take it to the next step and go, I got one of those? I could force the blood flow around my legs better, you know, or I could, that's why they say go out and walk, because that will force the blood to flow. But, it's interesting. It took me a year to realize that I had the ability to reduce the swelling without having to take diuretics. And it's quite strange now. I actually had sodium yesterday, which blew up my legs a little bit, but I'm just looking now to see how swollen my feet are, but it's not very much. So I just need to take a lot more water today as well. And so what I would do is say to you all, if you know what makes you miserable, you also know what makes you happy. Think about that. Sometimes when I say to people, what would make you happy? They say, I don't know. And you go, okay, what doesn't make you happy? If you can tell me what doesn't make you happy, I can tell you what will. So tell me, people, what does not make you happy? And let me demonstrate it for you. What is it in your life that doesn't make you happy? And to me, that is the incredible part, is once we know what doesn't make us happy, we can automatically work out what does. I found out that having my house on show is great. It doesn't make me happy because I feel sad when I paint, because I know I'm going to make a mess and it's going to be a lot to clean up, and I need to clean it up. All right. So I don't paint the same way because I don't want to make as much mess. Does that make sense? So what would make me happy is to get the move done and get on with the rest of my life. Jan is saying that her husband losing his vision. All right. Now, Jan, is there any way that can be reversed? In other words, a friend of mine is losing his vision, and he recently had a cornea implant that has helped. Yeah, that's interesting. Britt is saying, that he's in a long-distance relationship with the love of his life, and he's saying that that doesn't make him happy to be, so far away. But he also says, on a brighter note, he'd rather have that relationship long distance than not at all. Okay, so Jan is saying there is no cause, no cure, and no treatment. All right, so now, Jan, I would ask you something else. Do you know, are you sad for him or sad for you? Just so I understand where this is. All right. I want to know where the pain is for you. Or is it a little of both? For both of you. Okay. So now I would ask you to concentrate, if you can, this week, Jan, on how many people without vision do you know that led highly successful lives? And if you don't know of any, start reading their stories. All right? Start being aware that losing your vision does not have to be the end of your enjoyment of life. What happens is that the vision will be compensated in other ways. And so, no, he won't be able to see the sunrise or the sunset, but isn't he lucky that he was able to? There are so many people who were born blind, who have no idea what a sunset or a sunrise looks like. The other thing is, isn't he lucky to have you in his life to describe these things to him now? And I think you will find that your relationship will get much deeper because you will be able to stop for a moment and just go, I just want to tell you what I'm looking at the moment because I know you would so enjoy it. I'm looking at a tree and it has like almost lime green leaves on it at the moment and some kiwi colored ones, right? And I know that the reason they're that color is because they're dying off, getting ready to drop. But I just want to let you know how pretty that looks today against the fir tree behind it. And so, yes, the Brit is a musical person. So the Brit saying people like Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles. Exactly. But, are there any non-musicians that you can think of that have lost their sight? And I would say that I would probably, Jan, spend a lot of time researching people who've lost their sight and read their stories, right? Read their biographies or autobiographies and hear what they did to compensate. And then, maybe get your husband while he can still read, get him to read them as well, just so that you guys can be prepared and to see a positive, right? I found losing my hearing to be unfortunate, but, I also find that losing my hearing doesn't get helped by hearing aids a lot. What I found is, if I went out for dinner the other night with Dougie and I wore my hearing aid, but what happens is that the hearing aid will accentuate everything. So not only can I hear him better, I can hear the noise in the restaurant better. I can hear the music more than I want to. And so really, you just accentuate everything to a degree that that you still don't hear any better. It's just noisier. But what I did find, and I didn't notice it before, is Doug talks a lot with his hands over his mouth. And if I put my hand over my mouth, you will find that it's interesting how much we actually watch people's mouths to be able to understand what they're saying. So that is another thing about somebody losing their vision. They will also find that they will lose their ability to hear to some degree. Yeah. So, I look at it and go, I'm sort of coping with losing my hearing. And it's beginning to affect me in as much as, yeah, it's beginning to affect me because, I can't hear my tablet properly. I can't hear my laptop as well as I could, obviously. And so sometimes I literally have to put on my headphones to watch a movie. Okay, so that's interesting, Jody. Tell me about the coping skills that Lionel has learned. All right. Because, I think this is all about, I constantly ask myself, if I lost the ability to see, what would I do with my life? If I lost my ability to hear, what would I do with my life? Hi, Marie. Oh, that is, Marie, that is so difficult. Marie is saying, I'm so frustrated with myself right now. I took my glasses off in the kitchen yesterday, and when I went to go for them this morning, they weren't there. And now I have no clue where they are. I remember being really late for work one day and saying, I couldn't find my glasses and I needed to have them on to find them. Yeah. And that's why it really took me like half an hour to find my glasses. Yes, and something, I have Yvonne's daddy downstairs, and he also has lost his hearing, and he cranks up his television really loud. And, I used to find it frustrating, but now I just, if that's the only way he can hear it, let me just take a deep breath. All right, so Marie, I found, having a little talk to St. Anthony, who is the patron saint of lost things. You go, okay, St. Anthony, I've had a look. Could you please help me find them? And then stop trying to find them. All right. And, what I found when I do that is I'll be cleaning up in the kitchen and I will move something that I don't normally move, and look, oh, look at that, they were behind there. They must have just slipped behind there when I was moving something else. It is amazing to me how that works. So if you, yeah, and be grateful you've got a spare pair, even if they do make your ears hurt. Right? But I find St. Anthony is very effective. I'm amazed. It's just like, oh yeah, you're good. Thank you very much. And it might take a day, but you'll find them. Exactly, right? So that's why, Marie, I have all my old pairs of glasses. I don't throw them away, just in case. An old pair might not be quite as good as my current pair, but they certainly will help me see enough that, and also if I'm stopped for some reason, I am wearing glasses, which I'm meant to do. Wow. Okay, so Jody's saying that Lionel wasn't even able to discuss it until recently, but now he lip reads. We bought an external speaker for his computer, and the TV gets cranked up because Jody's hearing isn't great either. You might want to think, can he hear me right now, Jody? There's a reason why I'm asking that question. I will type it instead of saying it. Okay. I'm thinking about present. Okay. So what I said was, because apparently he's not here right now, but how about a set of wireless headphones for Christmas? The Brit is asking, do I think old age is a disability in its own right? No more than youth. I'd have to say that, Brit. I don't think old age is any more of a disability than youth. All right. I think being young is a disability as well. All right. The same as I believe, that being uneducated is a disability. But you know, what I love is today we don't have to be, you know, that you can stay young if you want to. I've known some young people that were way older than their years, all right? Yeah. This, you know, not all youths are stupid, Brett. You know, I mean, I look at some of the young people I met. I'm thinking, you know, when I met Marnie, when I met Benji, when I met Cisco, when, you know, Dougie, when I met them, they were young, and, you know, late teens. But you know, they weren't stupid. What attracted me to them, what made me want to be there for them, was that they were smart. They were smart in different ways. Right. So, you know, the Brit saying that his auntie is 95 in a week's time and in a horrible state. Yes, I think some people are in their 60s and in a horrible state, Brit. I don't think it's about age as much. All right, so Dniesha says old age to me means the years of experience and wisdom you've gained over a period of time. I would love to acquire such qualities, but it takes time. Yes, but you know, the interesting thing is, Niasha, that your ability to gain wisdom will be far faster than maybe if you had lived 50 years ago. Because today you have the ability to teach yourself so much more than you would ever have done. You know, you would have waited for other things to happen. Today you can, you know, you can study so much and learn so much. All right, so the Brit is saying she literally just sits in her chair all day. All right. And her mind's all there, which maybe is even more heartbreaking. Well, you know, she's lived a good life. You know, if she's 95, that is a pretty good life. And the fact she can still sit up in a chair. My mom wasn't able to sit in a chair by the time she was in her early 80s. All right. And so, you know, to me, it's like, wow. All right. And her body's packed up almost completely. But, you know, if she is able to sit up in a chair, that she still has muscle strength. That is incredible. So I think that you probably feel worse about her than she does. Right. And so again, you know, I would not concentrate on what she's lost. I would concentrate on what she still has. And, you know, if she still has the ability to recognize people, I would be joyful about that. If she still has the ability to sit up, I would be grateful for that. If she has a mind that still works, then I would go and entertain that mind. All right. You know, she might not be able to use her hands because of, you know, because of arthritis or whatever. And so, yes, I understand that, Britt, that she might not feel that she wants to be here anymore. She doesn't want to do it anymore. All right. I think a lot of people get to that. But, you know, part of growing older, Britt, and part of losing function is about learning to let go. All right. It's about learning to let go. Yes, Niesh, I'm glad you understand what I was saying there. That, you know, things weren't self-taught back then. No, we waited for our elders and our teachers, you know, to teach us things. All right. We didn't go looking for information. I think, you know, if I think about it, we did have an Encyclopedia Britannica in the house. All right. So you could go and look up stuff, but not the way that we can today. You know, I am just so excited about the things we can study today. So happiness already exists in your life. All you need to do is tune into it. And you can start doing that right now. All right. So I would really encourage you. You know, I said to you, what do you want to do that would make you joyful today? All right. What do you want to learn today? Let me ask you that. Anybody, you know, what would you like to learn today? Yes, you're right, Bert. The Encyclopedia Britannica was the Google of the day, and it was already about 5 years out of date when it got published, even the newest one. Do you understand? Because the time it took to, you know, write it, publish it, everything else, and then print it, you know, it was already a couple of years out of date whenever it was brand new. And, you know, whereas today our knowledge is amazing. I find it really interesting, you know, that Dougie is very, very well read in terms of news and politics and everything like that. And I happened to say something over dinner that he had not seen. And I said, well, hang on a second, let me see if I can find it in case I dreamt that. But I think I saw this. And, you know, when we got back from dinner, you know, we were sitting there with our phones, and I actually Googled what it was I'd been talking about. And I found it. And I said, no, I didn't dream it. It actually was a fact. And he said, gosh, that's amazing. I didn't find that. And, you know, it was like, you know, today, if you've got two people researching the same thing, they're going to come up with very different, they'll come up with some of the same stuff, but they'll come up with different ones as well. And that's why I always love it, you know, when you know, you might come up with something. You know, I believe 1 and 1 makes 3. Julian Duche said, in gratitude and joy, my heart sings better than ever. Sings better than ever in words I could. How many of you have found that when you are feeling happy and joyful, you know, you're more creative, you don't take things as seriously, you just, everything gets affected by it. You're more, you know, you cook better, you clean better. You know, it's amazing how being joyful does make a difference. And you remember what I told you guys about Mother Teresa. That was her one quality she looked for in people, not their deep depth of belief in God. She wanted people working in her organization that really were joyful people. They could work doing anything happily. And if you were able to do that, then you were a really valued member of the organization. So think about how much of your life are you happy? How much of today have you been happy? All right. How much of the last 24 hours have you been happy? And what are you blaming it on if you were not? All right, that's the thing. What are you blaming your unhappiness on? Because very few of us blame our unhappiness on ourselves. We blame, well, you know, such and such did so and so, and that made me unhappy, or you know, I didn't have enough money, that made me unhappy. Okay, so Jody's saying, I'd like to take an art class online and study French or Italian. Boy, those are lofty goals. What a great idea. All right, so Niesha is saying, I wasn't there for the Encyclopedia Britannica era. I came in when there was Google. I think, but I often heard folks back then who were more educated than people of today. Interesting. I believe the way we were educated was different back then. All right, so the Brit is saying tomorrow's going to be a heartbreaking day because my nan would have been 95 tomorrow. Now, you understand you're already setting yourself up to have a miserable day. And, what I'm saying is it's okay to grieve. I understand that. But, you could spend the day being very happy if you chose to. You could spend the whole day laughing with her. You could spend the whole day with positive memories about her. You could have the whole day talking to her, and thanking her for the memories. Well, it's interesting. I think today, Nyasha, in terms of, is the education different? I think that today people are very in the moment, right? We used to sit down and read the newspaper, Nyasha, and we used to read it from the beginning to the end. And we used to get educated on world news, on cooking, on fashion, on laughter, because there was always a comic section, and we would literally read the news. We'd hear about the movie stars, we'd read about this, that, and the other. But we used to sit down and read a news. We'd take the time to sit down and read a newspaper. All right. So to me, this is more a case of if you think about it, when do you even bother to check on the news? All right. And do you, when you go to see the news, do you go in depth at all, or do you just take the little 2-minute snippet that's on the television news? So to me, the difference is that I think we were, in a way, that's a really good point, Nyasha. I just want to give you a big round of applause on that one, because I think you're right. I think we were better educated because of that. That is interesting. How many of you remember sitting down and sharing the newspaper at home? All right. And it would get handed out. Dad would start with the sports section, and mom would start with the fashion, and the kids would start with the comics. But, you would end up, sharing, when you'd finished with it, everybody would do a swap. And so, it's interesting. It's a very interesting point. And so I think if you think about today, today's society, we are so impatient. Yeah, and the Brit's saying he doesn't listen to the news anymore. He's in England, and all he hears about is Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. I understand. Here in Canada, if I turn CNN on, it's all just Trump, 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 and what he's done wrong. All right. So I agree. But I find if you go to the online version of CNN or the BBC, I go to quite often, you can actually read it like a newspaper. Yeah, Jody said she loved getting the newspaper every day. Right, Jan. I remember that as well. The Sunday morning ritual. You had to wait for the funnies. All right. But yeah, and how thick were the Sunday morning papers? They were huge. All right. So I think it's a really good point that Nyasha brings up. And the other thing is it forced you to sit down and relax. If you think about that. I would say that most people sat and read the newspaper for at least half an hour a day. All right, they'd come home from work and sit down with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or whatever and read, or drink, and read the paper. As some people got up and read the paper, you know what I mean? That they read it before they went to work. They read it with breakfast. So it's a really good point. But I honestly believe we had better knowledge because of that. My concern is that today's society has a very short attention span, right? And so I'm very aware of the fact that people want their news in very small bits. Well, you don't get to understand it in very small bits, all right? You get the sensational part of it. You don't get the in-depth part of it. All right, so how about this one, everybody? Happiness is not a destination, it is a decision. Decide on what reality you want to live. So I'm thinking about Jan and her husband, and I'm thinking, all right, happiness is a decision, all right? I hope that they are planning how to have a happy life without his vision. I'm hoping that they will be thinking about where can we go after he's lost his vision, where the smells will be such that they will paint their own picture in his head. Maybe you spend more time going down, to where the fishing boats come in. Maybe you spend more time, going near farmland where you can smell the animals and the manure and, all those sort of things. Because I think it is possible to do. And so, to me, it is, please just think about that and go, it is not about what you're about to lose, it's what can you gain. I am pretty sure, Jan, I need to ask this question. Does your husband play Scrabble? For me, part of me goes, I wonder how many things, how well his memory will improve so that he can do things that he couldn't probably do before. All right, so he doesn't. All right. So what I'd be researching now is there's so many Audible books, right? So he can still can be listening and reading. He still can be listening and learning. He could learn a completely new talent, that's reading Braille, or he could choose not to read Braille. All right. But, I think it probably is important that he does learn to read Braille if he can do it. All right, so Niesh is saying, I often heard that, but somehow I believe that they had their own knowledge and education, while those who are living now do acquire the same information, just via different techniques. I don't think so in a way. I really have to say that I think we had better in-depth knowledge. I'm pretty sure that have you seen that program, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? All right. So part of it is that fifth graders are still going to school. They're still educating their brain every day. We get incredibly lazy after we leave school. We think our learning is done. It's funny enough, until we find something we want to learn, and then we study again. Like, how many of you can remember when you got your first computer? You had to study again, right? When you got your first laptop, you had to study again, or your first Walkman, you had to study again. How about you? How many of you thought you'd never get this one sorted out, right? Like, hello. And so it was so funny. I gave Dougie a couple of small presents for his phone, and one of them was a pop socket, all right? And he had no idea what that was about. But I bought him a pop socket that also was a stand for his phone. And he was just mesmerized. I'm not joking. He said, really? That's what it does? I went, uh-huh. And then I also bought him one of those stylus pens, all right, so that he can move more quickly with the stylus pen on his phone if he wants to. And why? He's trying to get away from being a BlackBerry user. How many of you remember the BlackBerry, right? And Dougie's still using a BlackBerry type phone. And he actually has bought himself a non-BlackBerry phone, which is very exciting, but he's still got a lot of learning to do. But I laugh because he can still, communicate far faster than most people. Wow, that's amazing. All right, so the Brit's saying that his mom and dad are teaching him how to clean the house, ready for when I have to live on my own. Nyasha, all right, you understand that even though the Brit has Asperger's, his mom and dad know he's going to end up living on his own, so he's trying to teach them. They're teaching him how to clean his house. He already knows how to cook, so now he's learning how to clean house. Probably not what he wanted to learn again, but it's a good skill. So I would start, Nyasha, saying, okay, I'm going to learn how to clean my room and keep it clean. All right, and give myself points every week. Every Saturday, I'm going to look at my room and go, okay, that's 5 out of 10. I'm going to go for 6 out of 10 for next week. All right, and start teaching yourself to do it, because you're going to need to do it eventually. So that's a good one. Laurie Cameron said, my purpose is to translate the wisdom and the science of mindfulness, compassion, and positive psychology into practical language so we can live with more ease and more joy. All right. And I would say I feel the same way. All right. I was talking, Benji was discussing the fact that how many videos I'd done. And I said, it was my dream some years ago to put down enough work, to record enough hours of work that somewhere in the world I would leave a legacy of what I've learned over the years. And so to me, it's like, it is an important thing, because even after I've gone, it'll still be there, that hopefully somebody will still be learning from something I did. I'm hoping that somebody will still, be interested in squeaky windshield wipers. Oh, I wonder how many views that's got now. Hang on, people, we got to find that out, because that's important. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I want to know that I did something that helped people. And I always love seeing how many views it's got. Hang on, we're going to find out. Okay. Dum, 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 dum. What happened to it? Ah. Okay. I always love doing this. It reminds me, the reason I like to look at it is it reminds me that it's all about time. Okay. And if you are patient enough, all right, so that one little video, which is less than 5 minutes, I think. Oh, 5:02, 5 minutes long, has had 217,000 views. And so, to me, it's about remembering that you never know who's going to need some help and find it. Okay. Yeah. So, I think, Nyasha, if your parents never teach you, I wouldn't worry too much. You know why? You are a very smart cookie. All right. You are a very smart cookie. You will pick it up very quickly, and you will have other people, your aunts and uncles will help teach you and so forth. Also, you know what I do right now, Nyasha? I would start. Have you seen that? Have you seen that lady who has a channel called Clean My Space? Nyasha, have you come across her? Because I want to tell you something. She has got the most incredible information how to clean almost anything. I would start teaching myself and practicing it within my own room. Right? I would start watching those videos. I would subscribe to her channel and I would start watching the videos. And Britt, you might want to have a look at that as well, and get clued up a bit on it. And so to me, it's like, well, aren't we so lucky? I mean, it brings me such joy that we can learn anything we want to learn today, as long as we've got a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet. And so to me, it's really, it's a really important thing. How many of you've never been able to pick what up, Britt? All right, that's your choice, Nyasha. It's your choice to shut down. But I would just keep to your room. All right. I wouldn't worry about cleaning anything else unless you're given permission to. But I would clean my own room, and I'd clean it the way I'd like it to be clean. Yeah, I think you need to look at that, Britt. Is it that you're unable or that you choose not to? All right. I'm pretty sure you clean your teeth every day. I'm pretty sure you get dressed every day. Those you had to learn. All right. So here's the trick, Britt. Start doing one little thing at a time. All right. Thank you, Jan. Just start doing one little thing at a time. Say to yourself, I am going to clean my bedside table today. Right? I'm going to clean it and make it look tidy. That's all I'm going to do, just that one thing. And so, you've learned all those things. It wasn't that you're stupid. You've learned how to look after your personal hygiene. Therefore, you have the ability to learn how to clean. You have the ability to learn how to do anything you want. Yeah, and I'm pretty certain that that a lot of it is. Yeah, I understood what you meant by the LSS. That I believe that a lot of it is because you're lazy. You found that having Asperger's gave you an excuse to not do a lot of things, and you also learned very early on, probably in your youth, that to do it badly was great because then they wouldn't let you do it again. And now I'd like you to grow up. That's the difference. You and Nyasha are both adults. Grow up, learn how to do it while you can. Even if nobody wants to teach you, like in Nyasha's case, start watching the movies. It is a cop-out, Britt. I believe so, yes. By the way, Britt, you are really very honest about your cop-outs. I would like to say more honest than a lot of people and a lot of my viewers. And I want to give you kudos for that because, it's not easy to admit where we have a cop-out. What I mean by that is it's easier to say, I can't do it than it is to learn how to do it. All right. And so it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, in my case, eating better. Right. All right. So Jan says she's got a bad storm coming her way. And have a good evening yourself, Jan. So great to see you. Thank you for being here. Hopefully it was of some value to you, honey. Yeah. And, but you can also see, Britt, that laziness is a choice. How many hours a day do you spend talking to Lena? You see, and that's the thing I always check myself. How many hours did I spend doing the things I wanted to do? Because I have that many hours. Yeah. So what I really would like you all to be aware of is we do what we want to do with our lives. Yeah, but would you say you spend an hour a day together or 2 hours, maybe 4? I don't know. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just saying that, you do that because you want to. It gives you joy to talk to her. Therefore, you give her this much time. The interesting thing is that if you said to yourself, I'm going to give half an hour of my day every day to cleaning, that would be interesting because you'll be amazed what you can get done in half an hour. And, I'm just going to do it to see if I can, whether I've got the discipline to do it. I know I have the ability to do it. Do I have the discipline to do it? Now, I would like to give, if you're interested, Britt, I'd like to give you my trick. My trick is I really, procrastinate a lot about doing things. So I start when every new hour appears, I remind myself, have I done that job I'm trying to do today? I just give myself one major task that I want to do, something, it might be to clean one part of my kitchen. And that'll be my goal for the day. And what I do is I start the first part of every hour by going, have I finished it yet? No. Then you need to go back there and do a bit more. Right. So, this is like, yeah, it's a great idea. If you like music, so put the radio on and, say to yourself, I just need to clean for 2 songs. After that, I can go back to doing what I was doing. But, you'll be amazed how much you can get done in 6 minutes. That's 2 songs, right? You'll be amazed how much you can get done. And it will bring you joy because you will find out you can do a lot more than you thought you could. And you will also know that you could have done a lot more than you did, but you also can do a lot more. All right. In other words, let the past be the past, but now catch up with your future. Life is to be lived, not controlled. And humanity is won by continuing to play in the face of certain defeat. Yes, your mom has warned you either tidy up your stuff or she's going to do it. And we know what she's going to do with your stuff, right? I totally get that. But what I would do is do it because you want to do it, not because you've been threatened. Do you understand the difference, Bert? Brit, I used to do that with, with children. If their task for the day was to take the garbage out and they didn't, I used to ask them a couple of times, and after that, I'd take the garbage and I'd dump it on their bed. You'd be amazed how quickly they got that message. You know something, Niasha, when you talk to somebody about what, I agree with the Brit that so often these different ailments were kept swept under the rug. We don't talk about it and something like that. But I find today that the good news is if we can talk to people, we educate them. I really, the way I found out how to talk to people in wheelchairs was to actually sit on the floor one day to talk to somebody in a wheelchair. And they looked at me and they said, "It's okay, you can stand up." I said, "No, you must be so tired of talking like this." And they said, "I am. You're right." How thoughtful. And to actually be able to look down at me and talk to me, they said was amazing. And what I did is I spent hours with them saying, "Tell me the other things, that upset you." And, one of the things that this particular friend of mine said was she hates it when people push her when she doesn't need it. And I want to tell you, that is the world's worst when you're out in public with her and she's struggling to get up a slight incline. And there are people coming down saying, "Why doesn't that woman help her?" And I will go, "Because she gives me the look when I do." I used to actually literally talk to them, right? Because I'm going, I know your judgment, but she hates it when I do it. That's why I'm not pushing her. And, people would go, "Okay." Yeah, and I thought it's important to teach other people because it is, really something people don't talk about. All right. So quite honestly, Britt, I don't think Niasha is going to know ASD either. However, she may choose to look it up and read about it. So Niasha, you may want to just write that down and then do a bit of research later, right? It's called autistic spectrum disorder. So he has a form of autism. Oh, it's interesting. Jody's saying that's very thoughtful. Many people look past me and ask Lionel a question about me instead of asking me because he is at their eye level, pushing my wheelchair. It's like I'm not there. I want to tell you that in the days when I could get up and down more easily, I would very rarely talk to somebody in a wheelchair from standing position. Unless, I might just do a quick hi, but if I actually wanted to talk to them about something, I would always squat down and talk to them so that I was below their eye level. And they'd say, no, you don't have to do that. I'm going, yeah, actually, I do. Yeah. Other people might not need to, but I need to. I just, I could, you just have to look at the body language and see how uncomfortable. And, I remember one politician that I met and I squatted down to talk to him and he said, don't worry, Sal, I spend my life talking with my, at that angle. And I said, that all the more reason why we shouldn't. And I remember him saying that makes you memorable. And I said, I don't do it to be memorable. I do it because I can see what a strain that must be on your neck. Well, Britt, I'd like to say that I don't think I've ever dumbed myself down to talk to you. In fact, I have done the opposite. I have demanded that you grow up and watch your language and do all sorts of things to be part of the group. And what I've noticed is you have done it. And, I sit in awe of you must have been really keen to stay within the group that you made those changes. Yeah, but that's why I'm saying, Britt, I chose not to treat you like you were stupid, all right? Because I don't think you are. I think you're in some ways, you are when I say in some ways you're smarter than a lot of my viewers. But what I'm saying to you is that I don't think it helps you if I treat you like you are less than. I actually think you've been given a gift at some level. All right. Yes, do some research in it. Yes, and you remember that, Brett, right? That when people upset you, you used to storm out. But what always impressed me is that you would write to me and apologize. And I really believed you to be sincere in that. All right. And I think that you learned a lot by that. And I thank you for that. So, as far as I'm concerned, you have demonstrated a very real willingness to be adult enough to be within the group. Yeah, I always had a problem with you storming out like a 3-year-old. And I told you to grow up, and you did. All right. But the thing is, Britt, if you had never been taught that conflict is okay, all right, if you hadn't been taught how to cope with conflict, then I don't blame you for storming out because you felt like you were being beaten up on. All right. And it isn't the case. Quite often people are saying things to you. They're not trying to beat up on you. They're just trying to tell you their truth. It's just their opinion and their thinking. You don't have to agree with it. I can assure you that I've tried to help an awful lot of people, some of whom have stormed out and never come back again. And that's okay. Yeah, you used to think that's it. I'm done with you all. Yeah, that's it. Why? Because we didn't agree with you. Well, hello, that's life. Yeah. And now you can see it was childish. But something, you showed your willingness to be adult. That to me spoke volumes. And that brought me joy, quite honestly. And I want to tell you, there are not many people in the room that were there in the original days when you were first on. But you know what I do know is you participate in a completely different way now. And I thank you for that. All right, so without hogging the whole conversation, let's carry on, all right? You must learn to let go. Release the stress. You were never in control anyway. All right? Niesha, how do you get diagnosed with Asperger's? That would be a medical thing, you know, that you might next time, you know, one of the most difficult things in today's reality is that you can look at all the symptoms of Asperger's and convince yourself that's what you've got when you may not have. All right? And that's what I want to warn you against. You know, that one of the difficulties of the internet is it's so easy to think you've got some terrible disease and you haven't. All right. So what I would do is I'd have a look at some of the symptoms of autism, or, you know, when you do your research. And if you think, you know, that you may have some of those conditions going on, then when you do your annual checkup with your doctor, that I think you do, you might want to talk to him and just say, look, I was doing some research recently on something, and I just noticed that I appear to have a lot of the symptoms of autism. All right, if that's what you have, and then, you know, explain which ones that you've noticed you have, and then say to him, I understand that this may be because of other reasons, but I thought I should discuss it with you. Does that make sense, Nyasha? For example, I was having all sorts of symptoms that were not getting resolved. And I kept saying to my doctor, okay, you know, we keep finding out what isn't wrong with me, but I need to find out what is, because something is. I just kept making sure that I stayed interested in my own health. So you may find, for example, that you fit 3 or 4 things, but in order to be autistic or to have Asperger's, you may need to have 20 ticks on the scale. All right. And so, you know, that this is why only a doctor can really tell you. Does that make sense, Nyasha? The same thing as, you know, Nyasha, I could have all sorts of symptoms of diabetes, but not actually have it. All right. So that's where you sort of got to have a doctor do the test to find out what's going on. Coco Chanel said, my life didn't please me, so I created my life. How about that for taking control? She didn't like the life she was living, so she created a new life for herself. And I would ask you to think about that. What life would bring you joy? All right? What life would bring you joy? And start learning to live that life. And Britt, are you medicated for bipolar? Okay, so Nyasha, honey, if you have cerebral palsy, all right, then that you need to be talking with Erin, all right, so that she can tell you some of the things that she discovered. All right. And you know, if you have had that in your past, I don't think it's something you overcome. I don't know enough about cerebral palsy, but I think, you know, you either have that in your life or you don't. I don't think that you grow out of it, for example. I think it's something that you either do or do not have. And, you know, the main thing is to learn how to cope. And I would start doing a bit more research to see if the symptoms you still have are symptoms that are associated with cerebral palsy, right? All right, so there we go. But be careful, because it's so easy to think we've got all these diseases when actually we don't. I assure you that you can scare yourself stupid, and I don't want you to do that, Nyasha. There's a difference between doing a bit of research and then, you know, getting it confirmed. Until it's confirmed, you don't have it. Do you understand? So I can do all the research in the world, but then I can go and talk to my doctor and go, okay, fine. I notice I've got this symptom, this symptom, this symptom. Could it be so-and-so? And he goes, no, I don't think so. Why not? Because you don't have this, 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 and this. Okay, thanks, right? So, you know, a doctor will be able to have a better idea. Well, I thank you all for joining me on my birthday. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon or evening or morning in the Brit's case. And I hope that you learn to make your life more joyful. I hope that you think every day, how can I have more joy today? Even if it's doing something I don't like doing. Thank you, Britt, for the birthday wishes. I appreciate that. Jody, love it. I have been playing with it the whole time. This was such a simple, brilliant idea. And, you know, I don't think it shows too much on the body language, right, that I'm doing it. I'm just trying to watch here whether you can actually see the muscles working. I think you can see them a bit on this hand where yeah, you can see it when I push it, right? The flab is wobbling. Really, really clever. All right, so have a wonderful time, everybody. I'll see some of you this evening, and I look forward to it. And in the meantime, look after one another, but please remember to be joyful today and tomorrow, and be grateful for what you have, and make little steps towards what it is you want to become. This is Dear Mama Sal saying thanks for being here. Bye-bye for now.